Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of World of Immortals based on novel. So let's start. The dragons that are currently attacking the divine monolith at the core of the ancient city notice the abnormal situation in this area. A monarch lion dragon with golden scales all over its body rushed over. It opened its mouth and spouted a golden ray. The blazing radiance made the practitioners unable to open their eyes. The mournful screech of ghosts resounded. Hundreds of skeleton birds fell from the sky, their feathers fluttered about and danced in the sky. In the face of the king of dragons, the monarch lion dragon, all the skeleton birds flew off like rockets. And that 30-meter-tall demon was also dominated by the monarch lion dragon's intimidating aura. It stopped its footstep. The monarch lion dragon let out another roar. A golden rain of light fell from the sky. Its target was the gigantic demon. The rain of light was as terrifying as unstoppable sword chi. The huge demon had no other choice but to fall back at lightning speed. However, it seemed like the monarch lion dragon did not plan to let him go. It suddenly swooped down from the sky. A streak of enormous golden ray cuts through the void like lightning. Everyone felt their vision blurred. After that, they heard a loud, splashing sound. The billows from the blood river soared into the sky. The monarch lion dragon actually swept the huge demon into the blood river. When the demon let out a mournful screech, bubbles surfaced on the blood river as if it was boiling. The demon struggled violently. It seemed like a monster was pulling his huge body into the river. The bloody waves rolled over and over. It finally calmed down after a while. That 30-meter huge demon was silenced in the blood river. The monarch lion dragon in the sky coldly swept its eyes across the young practitioners. But it didn't attack them. The reason it rushed over here was to wipe out the evil spirits. In the end, the majestic monarch lion dragon flickered with golden radiance and ran towards the core of the ancient city in the sky. Not far away, the three skeletons slowly reassembled their framework and exercised their joints. The survivors were in a dreamy state. To find a way out from a desperate strait, all of them were brimming with joy. However, their smiles were frozen again in the next instant, because a gloomy fiendish aura pressed towards this place once more. Qingguang Wang, Yang Lua Wang, and Luanhui Wang were extremely fast at this moment. They reassembled their framework with a clattering sound, and then rushed beside Xiao Chen in the blink of an eye. At a distant place, 50-plus Yin warriors adorned with the ancient armor were closing in one step at a time. Although the bronze and iron spear in their hands were rusty, they still contained a skyrocketing murderous aura. It was as if they had vowed to massacre anything in their paths, even if it was a dragon king. And behind the Yin warriors, there was another 50 celestial warriors. They were also wearing similar ancient armor that carried the vicissitudes of time. They looked almost like an ancient fossil. The killing intent was similarly skyrocketing. Everyone did not know how powerful was the celestial warrior, but they had already experienced the strength of the Yin warrior. And now so many of the Yin warriors and celestial warriors had come together, it was impossible for them to resist. Moreover, the eyes of these celestial warriors and Yin warriors were very clear. This means that they are very clear-headed. The Yin warriors they killed earlier were far from comparable to these warriors. It was very possible that any of these celestial warriors and Yin warriors could wipe the floor with them. Xiao Chen lamented inwardly. This is really a ghost town. Even if the deity ventured too deeply, they might not be able to leave without a hitch. Let's run. Someone shouted. All of them ran forward along the ancient street. Facing this many celestial warriors and Yin warriors head-on was equivalent to suicide. It was not only the celestial warrior and Yin warrior that were closing in. Those skeleton birds that were scattered by the monarch lion dragon started to gather together and flew towards this region once more. Even the spellmaster and psychic had no other choice but to fly at low altitude, otherwise they'd be sitting ducks for the several hundreds of skeleton birds. Xiao Chen and the rest were running quickly on the ancient street. This moment was indeed a great escape with their life on the line. Even though the Yin warrior and celestial warrior's pace were not fast, they still closed in the distance with ease, as if they possessed the ground shrink ability. The skeleton birds in the sky were increasing in numbers. Already a few hundreds were assembled. They started to launch their attacks on Xiao Chen and the gang again. At the same time, evil spirits lingering with black fog rushed out from the alleys every now and then. God knows just how powerful were these evil spirits. They also gathered in the same place and chased after the group of practitioners. At the central zone, the divine monolith trembled violently. The entire ancient city shook slightly. And the door of many former residences also opened with creaking sounds at this time. That was a very bad signal. It seemed like the monsters that always remained idle until now were finally making their move. At the same time, waves of trembling sound transmitted from a distant place. It sounded like the stampede of numerous huge monsters. At this moment, the baleful aura in the ancient city skyrocketed. The deathly aura filled the air. All the evil spirits became restless. Xiao Chen and the rest felt they were caught up in a desperate strait. If this goes on, where else could they run to? It was only a matter of time until they were wiped out. The cry of a young dragon transmitted over. That's right. It was a soft and immature cry. That was obviously the cry of a young dragon. With a flash of purple light, a 1-meter-long young dragon rushed over. It was shrouded by purple clouds. Its appearance was very much identical to the legendary Chilean. It possessed a deer-like and horse-like body, 4 wolf-like feet, and dragon scales, but it also possessed some distinctive differences from the legendary Chilean. It had a crocodile-shaped divine tail. The resplendent purple radiance was glorious, its scales were gorgeous, and the pair of amethyst horn on the side of its head resembled the antler. Its head looked just like the legendary ancestral dragon's. It was actually the Amethyst Dragon King. Many practitioners here had once encountered this little dragon. And Yang Qingcheng, along with Carlos and Wharton, even tried to ambush this syndicate Dragon King. But they still failed to subdue it in the end. Although the young Amethyst Dragon King was only 1 meter long, it emitted a powerful dragon chi. It possessed a pressure worthy of the king of the beast. It looked at everyone vigilantly, and then cheerfully ran beside the mysterious woman shrouded in colorful mist. It intimately rubbed against the side of the mysterious woman. This outcome made everyone stupefied. The Amethyst Dragon King was actually subdued by her. That was but the first Dragon King they encountered on this dragon island. It might be the very first syndicate Dragon King to be born. That means it might be the young ancestral dragon's most powerful adversary. So much so that it might even take down the young ancestral dragon and replace it. If it can grow up smoothly, it will definitely become a terrifying existence that even the god don't dare to provoke. The young Amethyst Dragon King turned around and ran forward. It seemed to be guiding the mysterious woman shrouded in colorful mist. Everyone follow me. The mysterious woman's angelic voice transmitted outwards, then she ran after the Amethyst Dragon King. The monsters and evil spirit behind them continued the chase, and as for those skeleton birds in the sky that saw the young syndicate Dragon King, they started to hesitate. They were afraid of drawing the attention of those fully grown dragons behind the young Dragon King. The Yin warriors and celestial warriors did not stop, and those evil spirits covered by black fog were even more fearless. They also quickly closed in. The Amethyst Dragon King suddenly turned its body around. Purple divine flame pulsed all over its body, then it let out a roar towards the evil spirits at the rear. Although its gentle cry was soft and immature, when it gets angry, the roar was as ear-splitting as the sudden clap of thunder that resounded in the heavens. It caused those evil spirits to slow down their footsteps in the twinkling of an eye. The Amethyst Dragon King's appearance made them recall some ancient memories. Everyone had noticed, the young Amethyst Dragon King actually led everyone to the vicinity of the divine monolith. It caused many evil spirits to stop advancing as a result. Only the Yin warriors and celestial warriors chased after them with a pace that was not too slow nor too fast. Can this Dragon King be trusted? Someone raised a question. The young Amethyst Dragon King turned its head around to take a glimpse at the practitioner, and let out a growl. It was very sensitive to sound, and possessed expressions like that of a human. This made Xiao Chen thought about Keek. That adorable little beast couldn't still be sleeping, right? Let's hope nothing bad happened to it. If we don't believe it now, then what other choice do we have? Someone refuted. You guys just keep moving, it will not do harm to us. The mysterious woman shrouded in colorful mist had a really gentle voice. While advancing, as if she was flying, she gently caressed the dragon horn of the Amethyst Dragon King. How did you subdue it? Someone finally couldn't resist and asked. One must know many people originally planned to subdue this Amethyst Dragon King. But all of them failed in the end. The mysterious woman was flabbergasted as she said, I have never subdued it. I only treated it as a friend. That's why it would frequently appear beside me when we were at the mountain woods out there. But I never thought it also entered the ancient city. It seemed to be showing us the way now. The practitioners looked at each other in dismay when that heard what she said. The mysterious woman had such a pure characteristic, She actually obtained the trust of the Amethyst Dragon King like this. It seriously made people jealous and envious of her. But some people were not convinced. If not for the Dragon King, then for what reason would she enter the Dragon Island? I wonder why you guys were always at each other's neck, especially you, solitary sword demon. If I didn't stop you several times, you might have killed even more. The mysterious woman had some complaints for the solitary sword demon. These words caused other practitioners to feel amazed. Could this girl really be that pure-hearted? Could she really be an oddball from some noble family? Even though they have their doubts, they didn't think about it too much. It is more important to run for their life now. Humph. The solitary sword demon only gave a snort in return. Xiao Chen felt all the more familiar with this mysterious woman, but he just couldn't recall where he met her before. For he had seen many female practitioners on this Dragon Island, perhaps she was among one of them. As they were talking, everyone had already been led by the young Amethyst Dragon King to the vicinity of the divine monolith. But of course, the so-called vicinity was a place where the energy rays couldn't reach. Rays of light flickered in front of them, the Buddha's eternal wheel, brass trigrams, etc. was still bombarding the divine monolith. High up in the sky, there were even more dragons. The young Amethyst Dragon was the legendary Syndicate Dragon King. With it at their side, even if those dragons found them, they wouldn't be attacked. Everyone comforted themselves like this. The Yin warriors and celestial warriors at the back seemed to be anxious. They were unwilling to approach this place, and watched from a distance. Letting out a growl, the Amethyst Dragon King moved away from the vicinity of the divine monolith. It ran towards the upstream of the Blood River. This Blood River, with a nauseating smell, could even be said to have 9 bend 18 curves. It was incomparably twisted. Bang! With a loud sound, the rays of light soared into the sky from the divine monolith. The divine halberd with resplendent golden light, and that jet-black metal engraving was sent flying away. Xiao Chen felt very excited, because at the time the divine monolith lit up, they arrived at the back of the divine monolith. He could vaguely see some diagrams within the divine radiance. He was extremely excited at the moment. That was the continuation of the chi training diagram bestowed by heaven. It was the piece of secret technique he had yearned for all along. The divine monolith on the Dragon Island really had some big connection with the ancient monolith in the Yellow River. Xiao Chen, what are you blanking out for? Let's go. Lawrence noticed Xiao Chen was standing there with blank expression. He couldn't help but pull his shirt. You guys go first. I will come after you soon. Xiao Chen was absent-minded. His attention was fully focused on that indistinct chi training diagram. Are you crazy? Lawrence exerted his strength to push Xiao Chen. The solitary sword demon at the side laughed grimly and said, HM. You wanted to memorize the chi training diagram on the ancient monolith. I advise you to forget about it. Each and every practitioners who tried to practice the chi training diagram on the Dragon Island's ancient monolith ended up dead. Buddhist Asian also walked over when he heard these. Then he said, Xiao Chen, don't be absurd and try to memorize the chi training diagram. That is a technique that cannot be practiced. According to legend, someone had obtained the diagrams in the past. But all those who practiced this technique died tragically. It doesn't matter, you guys go first. It was as if Xiao Chen had been possessed by ghost. His gaze was fixed at the ancient divine monolith firmly. But those diagrams already faded away as the rays of light receded. Just at this time, a cry of alarm transmitted from the front. It seemed like the Amethyst Dragon King had led everyone to a bizarre location. Lawrence and Buddhist Asian glanced at one another, then they pulled Xiao Chen at both sides and walked forward. It was easy to tell they were worried something would happen to Xiao Chen. And just at this time, the ancestral dragon's horn, Buddha's eternal wheel, brass trigram, as well as numerous dragons' spell bombarded the divine monolith again. The dazzling rays of light rose from the ancient monolith, the heavenly diagram appeared again. This time, 2 terrifying rays of light shot out from Xiao Chen's pair of eyes. It was just like an essence. His mind seemed to have left his body along with the 2 divine light. At this moment, he felt a large quantity of ancient aura pouncing on him directly. An ancient stone inscription deeply embedded into his brain. That's right, that was the follow-up of the martial arts he practiced. Moreover, he found 4 new techniques in that complicated diagram. It was 4 mysterious killing moves. Although there were only 4 moves, it meant the whole world to Xiao Chen. It was impossible for Xiao Chen to completely assimilate the follow-up heavenly chi training diagram in such a short period of time. He could only firmly embed them in his brain. However, he felt a sense of déjà vu in regards to that 4 killing moves. After thinking about it for a while, it seemed like he had seen this one scale, half claw before. The first move from the 4 killing moves had a striking resemblance with the God Slayer technique. But it was much more simpler than the God Slayer technique. The more Xiao Chen analyzed, the more fearful he felt. The God Slayer technique he found at the stone fence previously, when compared to the first move on the divine monolith, they were worlds apart. They couldn't even be compared. It was hard to express just how profound it was with mere words. Soon after, Xiao Chen found that the 4 killing moves on the divine monolith, a little trace of each, could be found in the killing moves recorded on the stone fence. The second move of the 4 killing techniques actually had a little resemblance with chaotic 3-way patterns. The third move of the 4 killing techniques actually had a little resemblance with 8 laws of demon suppression. And the last of the killing techniques actually had a little resemblance with 5 death blow. The 4 killing techniques on the ancient divine monolith only required 4 signs, but so much skills had derived from such a simple diagram. Maybe this was the so-called main path. The legendary chaotic 3-way pattern, 8 laws of demon suppression, 5 death blow, etc. were all evolved from one of the 4 killing techniques. And who knows just how many fold more refined were these techniques. The main path is simple. The main path is simple. Xiao Chen kept muttering these few words. In the end, he dubbed the 4 killing moves as God Slayer, chaotic patterns, demon suppression, and death blow. What are you muttering to yourself? Lawrence and Buddhist Asian, who were pulling Xiao Chen, couldn't help but shake him a few times after seeing his absent-minded look. Xiao Chen finally woke up from that kind of state. He gradually calmed down and said, "I am fine." Only then did Lawrence and Buddhist Asian let go of him. What happened over there? Xiao Chen looked ahead of him in shock. They were already a few hundred meters behind. The bloody light soared to the heavens ahead of them. The Amethyst Dragon King drew us here. Who knows? There might really be a way to get out of here. In this area, the amount of ancient buildings decreased. The blood river nearby pervaded with negative aura, bloody fog drifted around. The soaring bloody light in front seemed to possess an ancient platform brimming with oppressive aura. Xiao Chen and the others quickly rushed over there. They found out that was actually an ancient sacrifice altar. It was made by piling black boulders on top of one another. The height was at least 20 meters tall. It was brimming with the vicissitudes of time. It was surrounded by 2-meter-tall stone monoliths. And the soaring bloody light was precisely emitted by those stone monoliths. It was like they were shielding the ancient sacrifice altar. The blood river was connected to the ancient sacrifice altar, then it flowed towards the distant location. It seemed like the bloody light had great connection to the blood river. People couldn't help but suspect, could this be the legendary blood sacrifice? Could it be that the blood river was made for the purpose of powering this ancient sacrifice altar? Nearly all the survivors in the ancient city followed the Dragon King and escaped to this place. But there were only 17 to 18 people left. The rest were no longer alive. Xiao Chen found his enemy, the genius illusion master, Carlos, at this place. But the two of them didn't start a fight. This is not the best time to settle their personal enmity. The Amethyst Dragon King let out a growl, then it actually jumped and leapt over the blood river. It crossed the stone monolith and rushed into the bloody light. Then it got in front of the ancient sacrifice altar. It turned around and let out a few growl. It seemed to be asking everyone to follow. Dozens of practitioners looked at each other in dismay. Could they leave the ghost town by running to the sacrifice altar? That seemed unlikely. However, they didn't have much time to think over it, because waves of stampeding sound was transmitted from a distant place. The Celestial Warriors and Yin Warriors took a long detour from the Divine Monolith and finally arrived here. Furthermore, even more evil spirits were also rushing over. The sky was also covered by the densely packed skeleton birds. What's more shocking was that many of the former residences were no longer at a standstill. Waves of mournful roars were transmitted from those residences. Those were definitely some super powerful monsters. The practitioners were no longer hesitant. Since they are already here, might as well give it a try along with the Amethyst Dragon King. Dozens of people jumped over the sea of blood in succession and crossed the stone monolith. Everyone followed the Amethyst Dragon King along the ancient stone steps and got to the top of the sacrifice altar. The stone altar that had endured the wind and frost over countless years had diagrams of the sun, the moon, and stars carved on the surface. Not only that, there were also many drawings of ancient figures, but they were unable to guess what it was. When they walked on top of the sacrifice altar, everyone also noticed many bloody diagrams depicting dragons being offered as sacrifices to the gods. This made the Amethyst Dragon King very angry. It kept letting out a growl. Just at this time, a big crowd of evil spirits arrived in front of the sacrifice altar. Black fog rolled over and over, the gloomy fiendish aura pervaded the air. And the sky was also covered by a black cloud. Not only was there the skeleton birds, there were also many other unknown evil spirits that could fly. All of them were staring at the sacrifice altar fiercely. But none of them had unleashed their attacks yet. What's going on? Why do I feel something fishy is going on? Someone said with bewildered look, these monsters are swarming around us, don't tell me. Are they going to treat us as live offerings? The evil spirits kept increasing in numbers. In the end, they let out a shriek. It made this place tremble unceasingly. Even the Amethyst Dragon King seemed somewhat anxious now. It kept raising its head to look around. Through the gap between the evil spirits in the sky, they could see the bloody sun was about to suspend over the ancient city. When the bloody sun gradually approached the center, the bloody light of the ancient sacrifice altar glinted incessantly. This sacrifice altar that had existed for God knows how many years was crazily drawing the surrounding blood river, as if it had come to life. Dazzling rays of light rushed up. The evil spirits that were besieging them raised an upheaval. Their mournful screech kept resounding non-stop. It seemed like they were watching a live sacrifice from taking place. Just at this time, the building complex very close to the sacrifice altar suddenly turned chaotic. A violent rumbling noise resounded. The most majestic former residence in the center suddenly collapsed. The mournful screech was deafening. It seemed like another unique monster was born. Everyone were overwhelmed with shock. This is something that never happened before since they entered the ancient city. Right now, even though many former residences were letting out a bizarre sound, they haven't collapsed yet. Following that, a streak of white light rushed out. They could only see a hairy and adorable little critter jumping from the rooftop of one building to another. The snow-white little critter was panting with rage while blinking its pair of glittering big eyes. It looked at that ruins and let out a sound that transmitted to everyone's ears. The screech of the malicious spirit caused the evil spirits in the sky to tremble. They almost fell onto the ground. They could only see a tall man wearing ancient armor crawling out from that ruins. Ah! How could this be? That is. Everyone turned pale with fright. Because that was a headless angel, and yet it was actually able to let out a sound. Moreover, he had a pair of golden wings. That means he must be a god as depicted in legends. Why was he in the former residence? And where did his head go? But after a careful observation, they couldn't sense a trace of holy aura from him. His entire body was brimming with terrifying baleful aura. The headless golden-winged angel threw itself at the snow-white little critter. It destroyed that former residence in a flash. Endless amount of smoke and dust were blasted into the air. The little critter seemed to be extremely fast. The headless angel's golden wings were actually unable to catch up. In the end, the little critter rushed into another former residence. The headless angel also followed into the residence. Every former residences had a super powerful monster in it. Along with the collapse of a few former residences, several monsters wearing ancient peasant clothing already rushed out. One couldn't find anything special about them, but their terrifying strength made people felt very fearful. They were so much stronger than those evil spirits everyone had encountered before. A seemingly very adorable snow-white little critter actually made such a huge ruckus. And it was actually able to come out in one piece even after entering a few former residences. It was completely inconceivable. Keek! Xiao Chen cried out in fear. He already recognized Keek. He absolutely never thought of the possibility that the little critter had actually entered the ancient city too. Some people had seen this little critter following Xiao Chen before. They suddenly recalled it at the moment. But they never thought this little critter was so mystical. One must know that many practitioners who entered the former residences never seen the light again. They were reduced to the evil spirit's ration. But this adorable little critter actually ran inside again and again. It really made everyone speechless. Not only does it seem to be fearless, it appeared to be panting with rage. It was extremely cute and mystical. Keek heard Xiao Chen calling out its name. it blinked its glittering eyes and looked over. After that, it ran over cheerfully, as if it had found its close relative. It stepped on one after another former residences along the way. Things have gotten really rowdy. The golden-winged headless angel and other monsters pursued at the rear. They frantically destroyed several haunted houses along the way. The smoke and dust soared into the heavens at that area. Everyone was completely dumbstruck. This little critter was too unrestrained. Or was it because it was too pure and adorable? It actually rushed over here without a care in the world, all the while stirring up such a huge commotion on the way. Everyone was completely speechless. While Xiao Chen was feeling anxious for Keek, he was also secretly guessing at the same time, could those few people behind the golden-winged headless angel be celestial beings back in those time? After all, he was able to recognize one of them before. Even though these few people had unfamiliar faces, it was hard to say they don't have similar status. Rumble. One after another former residences collapsed in succession. Keek was almost caught by one evil spirit. Xiao Chen was extremely nervous. In the end, he couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to jump out of the sacrifice altar to provide support for Keek. Don't go. Lawrence and the woman shrouded in colorful mist stopped him at the same time. Xiao Chen was stopped by the power of space and time. Fortunately, Keek was in good health. Moreover, it actually had enough time to angrily wave its little paw at the golden-winged angel. In the end, Keek transformed into a streak of white light with a swish. It actually flew across a few dozen meters in the sky. It directly passed the blockade in front of the sacrifice altar, and leaped one more time to jump over the blood river. Then it ran towards the top of the sacrifice altar. Keek was really too mystical. Its entire body was snow white. That spotlessly white fur was flickering with a crystal-clear luster. It was as if the fur was carved out attentively from soft and pure agate. Adding on to that, its pair of glittering big eyes made it extremely adorable. This little critter was seriously a goblet of intelligence. How come you're here? Xiao Chen was really worried about it earlier. Keek was panting with rage as it pointed at him, and then pointing at itself. Its expression was so cute and funny, it was squeaking unceasingly like a sulky child. It seemed to be blaming him for abandoning it. After Keek jumped over, a huge commotion already broke out below the sacrifice altar. It seemed like the evil spirits that rushed out from the former residences wanted to cross the blood river and rush to the top of the altar. This made all the practitioners incomparably frightened. But fortunately, they only let out a few angry snarl and did chase any further. So cute. The exceptionally beautiful Rowena smiled enchantingly. She walked over here and embraced Keek, but the little critter didn't seem to appreciate the soft feeling of her breasts. It directly jumped on top of her head instead. This made Rowena felt embarrassed and humiliated. In the end, it was Buddhist Asian's bald head that helped her break away from this predicament. With a swish, Keek jumped on top of his head. It even jumped on top of his head a few times due to curiosity. Buddhist Asian was not angry at all, he was all smile. It seemed like he had really become a monk that transcended worldliness. Keek, don't mess around. Xiao Chen grabbed Keek down from Buddhist Asian's head. However, Keek fixed its gaze on the Amethyst Dragon King in the end. It looked at the legendary King of Dragons without a hint of fear. Moreover, it was extremely daring as it hopped onto the Dragon King's head. This gave everyone another great shock. Just what was this little critter's origin for it to be so fearless? Roar! The Amethyst Dragon King raged. It shook its dragon head with all its might. It wanted to throw Keek down. For the Amethyst Dragon King, this was a type of serious provocation. As the future Dragon King, how could it let a little critter ride on top of its head? It was truly intolerable. Keek, Xiao Chen was almost speechless. This little critter was really too naughty. How could it be so fearless? He quickly grabbed Keek forcefully in order to prevent the Amethyst Dragon King from going crazy. Facing such an angry Amethyst Dragon King, Keek waved its little paw without a care in the world. It seemed to be saying, I don't want to play with you anymore. Everyone became speechless watching these events unfold. And just at this time, the bloody sun shifted to the middle of the sky. One after another bloody light descended. The sacrifice altar also burst forth with endless bloody radiance. In the end, everyone felt everything around them were covered in the color of blood. They were unable to see anything else. The space was distorted, it seemed as if the time had also twisted. Everyone felt as if they had entered a space-time tunnel. a bizarre feeling sprouted in their heart. The bloody light became the only thing before their eyes. Who knows how much time had passed, everyone felt as if they were walking on the clouds. It seemed as if they were pushing their way through at high speed. When the bloody light finally faded away, what appeared before them was an empty space. It was like they had returned from ancient times. There was no scenery within this unusual space. Except for their breathing sound, it was deathly silent in this pitch-black space. It felt like 100 million years had passed, yet it felt like only a few seconds had passed. Everyone was experiencing a space-time disorder. Soon after, countless light beams streaked through the sky beside everyone like one after another shooting stars. Xiao Chen and the rest felt as if they were traveling through time and space. They quickly pushed their way through just like this. It felt as if time had already stopped. They couldn't feel the flow of time anymore. Everyone's heartbeat and breathing also seemed to have stopped. Who knows when it started? The surrounding space began to twist. One after another ripples of energy fluctuation approached, but the energy ripples did not harm the body of anyone. It brushed past their skin like soft water ripple. Rumble. With a burst of loud rumbling sound, a glaring radiance suddenly burst out. Everyone couldn't help but shut their eyes. When everyone opened their eyes again, cool breeze brushed past their face. The moonlight was gentle. This was a peaceful night. The sky was filled with many stars. The moonlight spilled down like the water. Everything was so auspicious and peaceful. It really felt as if it was a lifetime ago. The soaring bloody light, the gloomy baleful aura, the endless stream of evil spirits. They all disappeared without a trace. Everyone found themselves on the summit of a huge mountain. There was a pavilion not far away, and a small bridge with running water. There was also the refreshing fragrance of flowers. Under the calm starry sky, everything seemed so beautiful. Everyone had escaped from the ghost town. We finally got out, someone shouted excitedly. Xiao Chen found this place somewhat familiar, and Keek, who was sitting on top of Luan Hui Wang's head, was a little restless. It stayed on alert and looked all around. It was rare for the insensitive Keek to show this kind of expression. One practitioner happily ran towards the clear spring nearby, but just when he passed the ancient hall at the side, he suddenly disappeared in thin air. This unforeseen event made everyone's expression change. Their happy expression vanished from the face of the earth. At the same time, a psychic also disappeared in the sky. The sky was just as terrifying. Don't move around randomly. Don't get close to those ancient halls. Xiao Chen yelled loudly. He finally remembered, this was the sacred mountain. This was the place where many dragons roamed around previously. It was very close to Keek's home, the heavenly tree. At that time, he almost lost his life at the foot of the mountain. How did they get here? And why was it already nighttime? Could they really have traveled through space-time and spent more than half a day? Everyone had this kind of doubts. The Amethyst Dragon King also let out a growl. It also hinted everyone not to act blindly without thinking. It seemed to be a little fearful of this sacred mountain. Part 1 end here.